Hey, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista. We're really excited tonight. We have Kenny Aronoff is on the show, drummer extraordinaire, legend. Stay tuned. All righty. Good evening, everybody. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to tonight's show. Very excited. Kenny Aronoff is on the show this evening. He's not on yet. So we're waiting for him to enter our back office here. But in the meantime, George, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mr. Kenny Aronoff?
Absolutely, Mr. Kenny Aronoff. So, Kenny Aronoff, for those of you who don't know, is one of the most influential and in demand drummers and percussionists in the world. He's entertained millions of people with his drumming. He has played thousands of records, and he has been the go to drummer for the biggest stars in music. Kenny has also been an enormously successful studio musician, recording over 300 million records in sales, with more than 1,300 that were certified gold, platinum, or diamond. Uh, Unbelievable. Kenny is also a best-selling author, a television host, and an accomplished speaker, having taken the stage for top universities, corporations, and organizations around the world. And that's just a small snippet of what he has done.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the people that he's played, with, and I'm like, what? Like, just blown away. Just to give you guys a quick example, George, be looking down there if he shows up. I'm just gonna
Absolutely.
read a little bit here, but I'm just gonna go down the list. The Rolling Stones, Sting, Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, Billy Gibbons, Bruce Springsteen, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Rod Stewart, Elton John, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, The Smashing Pumpkins, John Bon Jovi, Kid Rock, BB King, Celine Dion, Steven Tyler, Dave Grohl, and many, many more. If you can believe that, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
mean, he's one of the hardest guys in working guys in show business. I mean, he's
yeah.
just constantly on the
And
move.
what's funny is that, like, you probably cannot find a human being that has not heard his drumming,
Right.
right?
Right.
You can't.
Right. No, absolutely.
You can't. You're
Absolutely.
gonna say, Have you heard?" And he was on. Actually he was with John Mellencamp for 10 of his records, so he
Yeah.
toured with him. And so who hasn't heard John Mellencamp?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
alone. So yeah, he's incredibly influential, a great talent, um, and we're really excited to have him here with.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show,
I've
Kenny
ever
Aronoff.
had.
Hey,
Kenny,
Yeah,
how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Extremely busy as always.
I
yeah,
I
yeah.
hear you. I hear
Listen,
you.
thank you so much for taking the time, and I apologize for that link. I don't know. Usually, it's pretty. I mean, you probably have
Yeah,
used StreamYard before, right?
dude, I've did 3 to 5 podcasts a week
Right.
since the pandemic. I have a
Wow.
whole studio over there where I do like live virtual speaking all over the world
Oh
using
wow.
StreamYard uh Safari, and it always works. This was the
Hmm.
Uh,
weirdest one. I don't know why, for whatever reason. It
yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna.
it kept asking whether I could come on YouTube or Facebook. So then I was
Right.
looking up all my passwords. Then it said you have
Okay.
to sign up for Dashlane. Dude,
Crazy.
I know.
Then you gotta take out your Blockbuster card, and you gotta put the code in. And
God damn.
so I'm
Uh,
gonna actually look into that because it's got to be something on our end. Because
Not
but
necessarily. I mean, it could
we'll
be
get that fixed.
just two ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Kenny, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
on here. One of the George and I started this show about 2 years ago, and one of the
yeah.
reasons is that we really like to showcase people that are in music, film, health, life, things where they can motivate people and kind of help them through this time with positive words and reinforcement and stuff. So we want to thank you for your time to be here
Yeah,
tonight.
you're welcome.
So Georgia has some questions. I have some questions. We have an audience that'll have some questions, and we'll just take it away.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So first of all, again, thank you so much for coming on. Two musicians here, also drummer myself. So
Yeah.
this is a personally really really
Cool.
fun thing for me. Um, but
Yeah, George was crying. I think.
yeah, when I heard you were coming on, I was crying.
Yeah, I think
No,
George was
but
crying when he heard you were coming out.
but
Was he crying because he was happy or
no,
sad?
Yeah,
no, tears of joy. Believe
tears
me,
of tremendous
believe me,
joy.
absolutely. So I want to first, just find out about. I want to talk a little about your background as far as, like, when you got into music. Did you come from a musical family? Were you like me, banging on pots and pans as a kid? How did that all work out for you?
Well, when I was a kid, my parents were New Yorkers. Actually, my dad grew up in Paterson, New
Okay.
Jersey, but eventually ended up in New York. My mom's New Yorker, so I grew up on the turntable was jazz, classical, and Broadway. You know, show musicals and stuff like that. So, and my parents were really super, super supportive of all the arts. My mom played piano. They met kind of where I grew up in Western Mass at a
Mm,
camp, and my mom was like the musical director, and they do shows. And so, yeah, I mean, they always were taking me to see the Boston Symphony Orchestra. It was a huge jazz program for 10 years up in my area. The Boston Symphony Orchestra was 3 miles from my house in Western Mass,
Oh
in
wow.
Lenox, Mass. I grew up in Stockbridge. And just maybe 2 miles from my house was this heavy jazz program where a lot of people from New York would come up. So I see Charles Mingus, Stan Getz, the Modern Jazz Quartet, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, you know, uh, Dizzy Gillespie, the Buddy Rich Big. I mean, it was just endless. So I grew up listening to all that. But at age 10, when I was playing outside one day with my brother, my mom, yelled at us to come inside to immediately because we thought we were in trouble. But what it was, and there was nothing to watch on TV back then. Trust me. But when we came in the house, she was pointing to a black and white RCA TV set with the rabbit ears for antennas because there was no cable back then.
right.
And there were these four guys on the TV dressed in suits, and
Hmm.
two guys had electric guitars, one guy had a bass, and they had long
Mhm.
hair, and obviously it was the Beatles, and so it
Yeah.
was the Ed Sullivan Show. So that completely turned my whole focus into rock and roll, and I didn't know who they were, I didn't know where they were from. I just knew I wanted to be doing that, and so I said to my mom, I mean, who are these guys? She said the Beatles, and I said, well, I want to play in that band. You got to call them up, get me in the band. I want to do that. And it was that moment, that exact moment I realized what my purpose in life was before I
Right.
even knew what those words purpose in life meant. But
Right.
as I look back, it's so obvious that was I'd never felt anything like that. I'd never seen anything like that. The key was I never felt anything like that. And
Right.
and so I started chasing after those feelings. And so, I said, Mom, get me in the band. That's the obvious thing.
Mhm.
And also, I want to play drums. I'm not interested in this piano lesson stuff anymore. And she didn't call the Beatles up, obviously. And she was adamant about me playing the piano, but she saw me so blown away and so intense about rock and roll music that my mom and dad got me. Eventually, went to New York and got me a snare drum and a cymbal at Manny's on. You remember Manny's on
Of
Oh yeah,
40th
yeah.
Street
course,
in
of
I'm from New
course.
Brooklyn?
York. Yeah, we're both from New York.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So anybody who's listening who doesn't know, 48th Street was a place where they had Manny's music. They also had Sam
Sam
Ash,
Ash. Yep.
and this was the music stores. You could go in there and all of a sudden you'd see Led Zeppelin there, or you'd be there and all of a sudden Hendrix would walk in. Anybody who came to New York went
That's where they
to
went.
Manny's mostly.
Annie's, yeah.
Yep.
And so for my parents went down there and they got me. So I started my own band called the Alley Cats, and we played Beatles music. But the
Nice.
cool thing about that story, the bookend, the bookend. There's still a lot more to do, but
Right.
the one huge bookend in my life was that 50 years later I get called to do a CBS special called "The Night That Changed America," honoring the Beatles for that Ed Sullivan Show,
Oh my lord.
and
Wow.
I get to play with Paul and Ringo. But it didn't end there, man. I played with Stevie Wonder, Jeff
Right.
Lynne, Dave Grohl, Joe Walsh, John Legend, Alicia Keys, Steve
Yeah.
Mayer, Steve Mayer, Keith Urban, and John Mayer, and Pharrell Williams, and let's see, Brad Paisley, and on and on and on. It was just a typical. This is a
Yeah.
typical day in my life,
Right.
but it was extraordinary because it was Paul and Ringo, and that was like so iconic for me
Yeah.
to
Right.
be playing with them.
Was that the everybody has like this oh my god moment in their lives where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
realize that
absolutely.
must have been like just unbelievable.
Yeah, because I mean, 50 years later, I mean, so many
That's
things could have happened
right.
as they did. I mean, George and John were
Right.
dead; they weren't
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that the real takeaway from it is that in order for me to have even gotten that call, because if you think about it, about around 73 million people in North America saw the Beatles on TV,
That's
but
right.
only one drummer ended up on stage that night playing with them that saw them. So
Incredible.
the thing is why? Okay, well, there's no luck involved at all. It's all just
Oh.
from you know that let's just start with purpose and passion, or
Hmm.
your deepest desires, or your truth, whatever you want to call it. It's not up here. It's coming from here.
Hmm.
Thank God I acted on my true feelings, what I really was about,
Right.
and that propelled me and fueled me to work hard, be self disciplined, and persevere. And what that means is like by the time I graduated high school, the day after I graduated high school, I was practicing 8 hours a day,
Right.
7 days a week. Now nobody told me to do that, so
Right.
that is coming from a place of desire. And let me explain a little bit more about why I was practicing 8 hours a day. I was going to school to study classical music because there was no school of rock back then. So I was doing 2 hours on vibraphone, which my parents bought at Carol's Music in New York, secondhand store, vibes. I was doing 2 hours on vibes, practicing scales and reading and technique. 2 hours on timpani, where I was practicing technique, reading, and playing the symphonies, and then 2 hours on snare drum, legit snare drum, rudiments, reading,
Right.
then 2 hours on drum set. And I was in fear of, really sucking, and because in high school I wasn't in the concert band or the symphony band or the marching band. I was
Right.
in a rock and roll band, and I was a three letterman jock. I was an athlete. By the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was on three varsity sports,
Oh
which
wow.
was perfect for developing discipline and accountability and
Hmm.
stuff. And you put those two worlds together, and I was the guy that would practice in the music school till 1 or 2 till they throwed me out because I
Wow.
had that. You take that discipline, that and hard work and perseverance, fueled by that purpose, like I said, that desire, and you become unstoppable,
Yeah.
undeniable, and very authentic because this is who I am.
Yeah.
So you do that for 20, 30 years
Yeah.
and you're going places, okay?
Yeah.
And it wasn't an easy journey, but I did it. And so eventually, things led to everything. Just if you look at my career, it's ridiculous. It just gets
Yeah.
and it's still going strong because I'm still that guy that I'm the last guy standing. I wait. Come. I stay later. I come earlier. It's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah. And you also had an environment that was able you were able to nurture that, you were able to do that, we talked to a lot of artists, and a lot of times they get suppressed in their homes. It's like, well, it's great that you want to do that,
Right.
but get
Right.
yourself something steady, get something to fall back
Yeah.
on. And that usually is a huge mistake, or at least something that takes away from that initial passion that you mentioned, right?
Absolutely, because what happens is even if the kid decides to make it, he's always got that voice in his head. You should, you should.
Right.
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 So let's say 10% of your brain is dealing with that. That's 10% that's not dealing with your career.
That's right.
Correct.
It's that
Absolutely.
simple. It's like a glass of water. A
Correct.
part of it's being thrown over there to deal with that. So I was lucky. I mean, some my mom when she was alive said to me that one of her friends from New York would say, I can't believe you let your kid be a musician and be a drummer.
The
Wow.
audacity! How dare you? Don't you care about him?
Yeah,
I know
right.
it's
Exactly.
thank God my mom was like
Thank
she
God.
saw through all that. They
Oh,
looked at me, I mean, this, this is the funniest thing. I mean, when I got in, I went to UMass for 1 year because I wasn't, the I wasn't good enough in the classical realm. I used that first year really to catch up, and it was very, very overwhelming. I was way behind in music theory, music history, music literature, working in orchestras, all the classical thing, sight singing, piano, all this stuff was way behind. But in 1 year, I ended up transferring to the number one school in music in the country, Indiana University School of Music.
mm,
It's interesting. The story is, I'll try to be as quick as possible.
yeah.
The top three schools in classical music were Indiana University Bloomington, Juilliard, New York, and Eastman in Rochester. I'm in school. I know I'm not the best, but was not willing to stay there and be comfortable. I wanted to be on the best. I want to be on the Super Bowl team. So I said, Dad, I want to transfer to Eastman. It's 5 hours up the road. Take me up to Rochester. I'm going to audition. I got in, but there was no room for um, a transfer student. They only have 14 percussionists, so everybody's always working.
Mm,
Everybody's always in an ensemble. If you take too many kids are going to be standing around, and
Right.
right.
they
Right.
can't have that. So I was very disappointed, but I was kind of hitting on this cellist, a sophomore at UMass. I said, "What are you doing this summer?" And she said, "I'm going to Aspen." I went, "What's Aspen?" She said, "Well, it's an elite music program run by Juilliard." And I went,
Oh,
Oh, look at that.
"Oh,
Look at that.
if I get in there, maybe I'll transfer to Juilliard. I'll be in the second best school in the, everybody knows Juilliard."
yeah.
True.
So I prepare an audition, and on tape, and on timpani, mallets, multiple percussion, and snare drum, and I, I don't hear from them. So the last day of school, and I'm gonna study with Arthur Press from the Boston Symphony Orchestra percussionist. I got an Allman Brothers band, so it's gonna be a great summer. And I'm driving away from school. I got some percussion in my instruments in my dad's, station wagon. I went, shit, I forgot my mail. I go back to the dorm. I get my mail. It's like, looks like a check. I nobody owes me. When I open up, I'm accepted to Aspen.
Wow. Look
Whoa.
at that.
So I think, and I have to be there in 2 weeks. I think I was an alternate. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
accept
Right.
somebody
Right.
2 weeks. They
Right.
didn't say that, but
Yeah.
anyway, I go there, got my ass crushed. I'm the worst. You got these Juilliard prep kids that are playing timpani when they're in their diapers.
Right.
I'm playing scales and they're playing like complete, violin, cello concertos, four mallets, and I'm sitting there playing scales. But the teacher there taught and ran the department, percussion department at Indiana University.
Oh my.
Oh, wow.
It comes
How about
all
that?
around.
So I went, Mr. Gabriel, I'm coming to Indiana University. I want to audition. And he says, well, just come back in January and you fly in with your mom and audition. I went, no, I want to audition right here and go to Indiana from here. He said, nah, just come back. And I went, no, George, I'm going to Indiana University in 4 weeks or whatever it was. And he just went, whoa. Now here's what why he was doing that. He's probably going like, holy shit, this guy is serious,
Dude.
and I want to teach him because
Right.
he's
Right.
serious.
Right. Right.
So in order to get there, you have to audition to Indiana. You have to audition for four departments. You
Right.
just don't audition for the percussion teacher.
Right.
Just so happened at Aspen, they had people from four different departments in the music school from Indiana. Mr.
Holy
Pallerite, who
cow.
taught flute, Phil Farkas, who taught French horn, a vocalist or something, or maybe a violinist, and then percussion. I audition, I get in. I go right to Indiana University. That became my Indiana connection.
Look at that.
The biggest goal I had to do, we have an opera hall there at Indiana University that's bigger than the New York Met.
Wow.
Wow.
And they don't fuck around there, man.
Yeah.
I
That's
had to do an
crazy.
opera twice a year. And my teacher, Gaber, he said, "You take this seriously." I saw my teacher wash out kids and they'd quit. They'd nervous breakdowns. He
Mm.
was old school, man. There was no entitlement. There was no hand holding. You can't negotiate your grade. You don't go, well, I
Right.
don't think I deserve that. You if you get a D, it's because you deserve a fucking D.
Right.
That's the school I came from. I walked into my class, into a lesson, my first, and I should have known better. I walked into my first lesson. He was nicer in Aspen, but when I got to Indiana, this was his department.
His turf.
Yeah, and he goes, I didn't have a pencil and eraser. He gave me an F, threw me out of the office, and said, "Don't you ever fucking come to any rehearsal, any lesson without a pencil and an eraser and paper."
Wow.
Holy cow.
There you go.
That was my first lesson.
It's
It's like I
unbelievable.
thought I thought we were friends.
Right.
No, no, no.
So
This is,
And
yeah.
tough.
you you so eventually you hook up with Mellencamp, and this is what's interesting. I think, talk about a story of perseverance, okay? Because, and I think there's a good lesson in this. Tell the story about when Mellencamp fired you.
Yeah, well, okay, so long story, I'll try to be. So I go through 4 years of studying classical music, and I get into Tanglewood, run by the Boston Symphony Orchestra. After three failures of getting in, fourth finally get in. Work with Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, and then I get into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra, and I turn it down. Everybody was in shock, including my parents. And the reason why it ties back to seeing the Beatles. I I didn't want. I love classical music, but I still want to be in a rock band.
Right.
Right.
I still wanted to be in the Beatles. So I turned down uncertainty. No, I turned down certainty, a paycheck and a job
Mhm.
for complete uncertainty.
Right.
Uncertainty. Yeah.
That's when you know you're making the right decision
That's right.
because
Right.
you're not quitting something for something else. You're quitting because it's not right.
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 So anyway, I spent 4 years trying to get my shit together on the drum set, studying. Then I moved to Indiana, formed a band. The business model, as you all know,
Right.
write some songs, get a record deal, make a record, go on tour, sell the product, make money for the record label, for you, and do it again. And
Right.
do it again and again, and then you become big like Elton John. All right, that was the dream. Well, after 3 years, we didn't get signed.
Right.
I mean, and so I'm about to go to New York to move. And I hear about this Johnny Cougar guy.
Mm.
I was having lunch with this singer songwriter, asked him what I was doing. I'm going to New York. She said, "Oh, cool. You know this Johnny Cougar guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I've seen him on MTV." So, well, he just fired his drummer last night. And all of a sudden I go, ding, 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 ding.
Right.
Oh my God. Radio, TV, records, touring, like the Beatles. I went running out of the restaurant to a payphone because there was no cell phones. Call up the guitar player and I go, "Hey, Mike, it's Kenny. Hey, dude, I heard you fired your drummer. I'd like to audition." He said, "I'll call you back in a couple of weeks. We're trying to sort out shit." Guarantee you, John was asking everybody around town, "Who's this Kenny Aronoff guy?"
Mhm.
And this is where you build integrity and
Right.
you build identity
Right.
and you build a reputation, a good one. I was known as the hardest working, hard worker, self discipline, perseverance, easy to get along with. You know, you need this guy on your team. So I get an audition. I win the audition. I memorized every single beat on the previous record, the record that was out. And I was kept thinking, God, man, why is the drummer play so simple? Feels like ba 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 boom. I'm like, this is boring. But I won the audition. I'm getting to your question. 5 weeks later, we're in LA making a record. And after 2 days, I'm like, I've told everybody, I did it. See, I stuck to my guns. I did it. I'm gonna be on MTV, the radio, making a record. This is the new one of the new hot bands. And in 2 days, I'm fired.
Ah.
Why did I get fired? Here's why. Producer wanted to get this record done in 8 weeks. and back then when they had tape, you had to get the drums recorded first,
Right.
and then you build everything on top of that. It's just very complicated punching in and out of tape. You can hear it, and it's hard to be consistent with the hi hats, how open they are. You just want a drummer keeps perfect time groove. His drums are tuned right. He's got the right equipment. He knows
Yeah.
how to work with a click track. He knows how to take instruction. I had almost zero experience.
Mm.
And I'll ask drummers this, man. I'll say, what do you think the purpose of a drummer is when he makes a record in the studio with a band? And people will go, beat time. Nope. I'm talking North Star. I'm talking
Mm.
the end zone. The purpose is to get the song on the radio
Mhm.
to be a number one hit.
Right.
In other words, it's not about me, it's
Mm.
about we.
Right.
Right.
I didn't know that. I mean, in all fairness, in order to be great at anything when you're young, it's all about you. Practice, practice. How do I sound? How do I look? How do I sound? How do I look?
Right.
And then, but to be Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, he is the perfect example. And I got this verified by an NFL center. He is the epitome of teamwork, and it's about we.
Right.
Right.
Even though he has 7 Super Bowl rings, he no dummy. He needs everybody to make him look great, and
Absolutely.
he's going to make them look great. So this was all new to me. Anyway, I'm fired, and the words that came out of my mouth in that band meeting were life changing. Because when John said, and by the way, I didn't know the producer was firing me. I always thought John was until about 4 years ago. I I said, John, what? You fucking fired me. So, no, I didn't. No, it was Cropper, your buddy that you went out drinking with, the producer. He's the one that fired you. And, oh my God. So anyway, and by the way, I saw Cropper about 5 years ago at some blues festival in Norway. He says, man, I always knew you were gonna make it. I'm like,
Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
nah. So
That's
probably tells you I taught him everything he knows.
right.
Well, I know John says that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said to John, no fucking way am I going home to Bloomington.
Look at that.
No way. So what was happening here? This is the important thing. I was in a fighter.
Holy
I
shit.
was in a fight or fight mode. You know why? He was stealing away my purpose, my bliss, my happiness, my joy,
Right.
my everything.
Yeah.
And when he told me I wasn't playing the record, I felt like a piece of shit. I
Yeah.
felt like a loser. I felt overwhelmed. It didn't matter that I played with Leonard Bernstein and that I was in the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. What does that have to do with hits on the radio?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. So I didn't know what this was happening. I'm looking back and I'm going, wow, I was a fight or fight guy, not a fight or flight guy. Most people
Mhm.
would have said, oh, bummer, go home and drink beer and cuddle up to their girlfriend. I didn't see any way out. He was stealing my whole existence. This
Right.
is what, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? And I
Yeah.
thought if I leave, it's definitely a done deal. So I'm I'm scrambling like in panic mode. Like, well, I go, well, am I still your drummer or what? And he goes, I threw him for a loop. He went, well, yeah, but you're not playing on the record. So I'm scrambling again. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go in the studio and I'm gonna watch those drummers play my drum parts on your record, and I'm gonna learn from them. I'm gonna learn all kinds of stuff watching, and I'll benefit from that. And
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
you just said I'm your drummer.
Look
Wow.
at that.
He said
Unbelievable.
he said nothing. It's not over. You think, oh, that did it? No. He says nothing. I'm like, all right, you don't have to pay me and I'll sleep on the couch. And he went, perfect. That was the deal. I
Deal.
mean, you have to understand. I mean, this guy had lost his record deal already. Money was, if I'm saving him money. And,
Right.
but man, it was the hardest 4 weeks. I felt, like I said, the loser. I was always like the most popular, the top of my game. Now I'm the outsider. And
Mm.
I know there was all these triggers of childhood, stuff, going on. But the bottom line, they were going on.
Right.
So after 4 weeks, I went home and I did learn a lot. And I played percussion on the record, and I learned a lot. And that's where I realized it's about we, not me.
Look at that.
And it was the biggest life lesson possible, because eventually we all have to go through that kind of lesson. And I'm
That's right.
glad I did it at age 23 and not wait till I'm age, 73, you
Right.
Right,
know?
right. It's amazing, and success is always on the other side of risks, and it looks like you've knew that there was that risk there, that the fear of that risk, it was a greater risk to stay and not make that decision than it was to make that decision. And when you get to that point, there's really you can only be successful if you really have that viewpoint.
Well, I have a saying, it goes like this: I'll never be as great as I want to be, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life trying to be as great as I can be. And
Wow.
that's like a running back in football. They don't get touchdowns every time they get the ball. They spend their entire career trying to get in the end zone. Look at Tom Brady. I call this adapt or die. You're prepared. He's the most prepared guy in the world. I can totally relate. I'm that guy. But when he gets on and I mean mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, but when he gets on the line and the ball is hiked, it literally is adapt or die.
Yep.
The defenses are going to confuse him. Shit happens. And here's the key takeaway: if he gets sacked or he gets interception or fumbles or something goes wrong, he doesn't dwell on it.
No.
He keeps saying, "How can I get in the end zone?"
Right.
Because if you spend time dwelling on what is considered a mistake, and I don't believe in mistakes, those are experiences that
Mhm.
help you become better. And in his case, at the moment, like,
Right.
Yeah.
okay, we won't be doing that play again. Move that off the fucking playlist. And and and, and and he's just focusing on the end zone. So we're all talking about the same thing, which was like, man, shit happens.
Yeah.
All the most successful people, shit has happened. The lesson here is big deal.
Don't
That's
dwell.
that's a
That's it.
guarantee.
You're
The
right.
Yeah.
most success, you should go, oh, cool, man. I just had something happen that I didn't want to happen, but what can I learn from that?
Right.
Right.
Even in relationships, let's say you're married or you're dating someone you're madly in love with, and it goes awry. You get dumped. You think, and the reason why I picked that, because that's a passionate thing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
You're devastated. But really, in there, you guys, that's where the work is. That's where you become great. There's a gift there. There's a learning experience. I won't break it down, but there's something. It doesn't feel like you're benefiting, but if you can handle that in a simple way of explaining, if you can handle that, then you can handle other things that are way less emotional and way less impactful and way less. Your boss yells at you. Are you kidding me? My
Right.
girlfriend just dumped me.
Right.
you know, and that's the positive way of looking at it.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
take a deep breath and let it go, and go, man. This is just I just got intercepted, or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
fumbled the ball,
That's right.
and you know
I
what?
have
This is an opportunity to learn about life.
right. I have a little bit of that viewpoint because I grew up in the South Bronx, and like
That's where
there
my
was a lot of.
mom grew up,
Oh, really?
in the
Oh.
Nice.
Bronx.
I'm
Yeah,
Hunts Point, Southern Boulevard. That's where I was born.
yeah,
So it was so rough, and I saw a lot of crazy
yeah.
things growing up. So for me, like I got out, I got married, I have 2 kids. I'm living in Nashville now. Nothing upsets me. What, are you kidding me? Do you know what I
Yeah,
saw when I was 16 years old?
Hmm.
yeah.
Are you kidding me? So
Exactly. That's
yeah,
exactly.
and it's like you can build out off of that. As a matter of fact, when you said earlier, if shit's not happening to you, then you're not working hard enough. You
There's something to be said about that.
you
Yeah,
gotta
because
start.
you're not learning enough. You're not
Yeah,
living life. You
right.
know, now you're at a place right now, John, where you could take that wisdom and work it toward yourself, because
Hmm.
I guarantee you that you'll go back to being a 16-year-old sometimes. But now that you have the wisdom, you can coach that 16-year-old out of that attitude and help it along. I mean,
Yeah. Oh
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? You have wisdom now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah,
But
it's unbelievable lessons
wow.
there.
I love that.
Um, another thing I wanted to bring up was that so in the I think it was in the 90s, I went to see you doing a clinic in New York City,
Wow, which
and
store?
I don't remember. I went to so many clinics. I don't
Was it Long
remember.
Island?
It
Long Island?
it might have been. I don't remember. I just
Hmm.
remember the room, but I remember I was excited to see you. But the interesting thing is that I didn't know you outside of Mellencamp and maybe Fogarty. Okay, so I was right in the front row, and you actually signed a picture for me, which thank you
Mm.
for that, by the way. So, and this was just when I was, still learning the drums and still learning how to read and all this stuff. And what was interesting, because I expected you to do something, and you did something completely different. You walked in the room before you even had a lesson or said anything. You sat at those drums. You put on a CD of Burning for Buddy, and you played a swing tune, and then you not only did you swing unbelievably, but you soloed on top of this. And I was like, I was shocked because I had never seen you played this way before, and I had no idea that you could play like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of inspired me as far as becoming very versatile. So what do you say as far as just musicians, as far as versatility, even if someone's not playing jazz, let's say they're just playing rock, do you think it still helps them to be versatile and learning those things because they could still bring those styles into what they're playing currently?
Absolutely. Uh, Not everybody wants to do that,
Right.
you know. But for me, it worked. I didn't plan it like I calculated this move. I just love playing the drums because it makes me feel good. I love being around people because it makes me feel good, either on the stage or in the audience. I love just having a great time, and I've even broken it down. When I was a little kid, I was attracted to playing the drum sports and hanging with girls too, because it elevated my serotonin levels, my dopamine levels,
Right.
my all my chemicals inside. So without even knowing that, why wouldn't I go back to doing those things that did that?
That's
So
it.
so if somebody asked me, hey, you want to play this country gig or you want to play this jazz gig? It was like, hell yeah. It's fun. It's going to feel good. What happened was, and then, you're making money too,
Yeah,
you're
sure.
making money. This is amazing. I can make a living playing drums, playing every style of music. And what happened is because I tried to do everything at the most authentic level, all of a sudden I was getting good in different styles of music, which definitely at this point in my career, oh my god, it's amazing how much one thing helps the other. So
Yeah.
I'm doing a gig with Kings of Chaos. The first artist, that's a super group,
Mhm.
and they do
Mhm.
corporates and stuff. So the first main artist is D. Snyder. D. Snyder is one of the greatest front,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
front men ever, and it's obvious. It's just straight up, he calls it, metal. It's just heavy rock. It's that. Next artist, Ann Wilson. That's a whole
Okay.
different.
Oh
That's from
wow.
Heart.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those are different. You're playing Barracuda and some of these always, the other songs, and it's not metal. It's rock and radio friend. Then it's Billy Gibbons. Now
Ooh.
you're playing the Texas Shuffle. You don't just walk on stage and play the Texas Shuffle.
No.
You have to play. And for those who are listening, the Texas Shuffle, one of the main styles of Texas Shuffle, it's four on the floor.
Right.
You with your right foot, boom, boom, boom. Four on the ride cymbal. Left hand's doing cut, dut, dut,
No.
dut, dut, and it's the balance between all those sounds makes a certain feel. Then every so often you can do things with your ride, which you go ding, gut, ding, dut, that you can do a swing beat. Left thing you can do, which is what Chris Slayton does, to do a rough shuffle, which is
Right.
and you go, and then you got all this vocabulary.
Yeah.
Dude, you have to live in that world for a
Mhm.
long time to be able to play like that. And
Right.
I just played with Billy Gibbons, and it, I mean, so anyway, and you saw me do the Buddy Rich thing,
Hmm.
which wow, I'm looking back, man, that took balls to walk out and do that. 'Cause, I mean,
That's exactly what I said.
dude, for those who are listening, go look up on YouTube. Actually, there's a video of me. I had hair, a ponytail, I think. Yeah. Anyway, um, but the thing is, it's extremely fast bebop big band
Yeah.
song, and I got lucky as a mofo on that recording. I literally didn't even know. I was looking at my hands, going, "Who the hell?" And I'm reading. I'm reading because typical of Kenny Aronoff. Before I recorded with the Buddy Rich Big Band in New York City, I had spent a week doing Cinderella album in Philly, a
Oh
week
wow.
doing Hank Jr. in Nashville, a week in New Orleans doing some New Orleans thing, a week in Canada doing country. Then I come in and do jazz. But so at night when everybody went to bed, I would stay in the studio and practice from midnight to 2 in the morning. Those songs. So when I
Wow.
walked in there, I was terrified. The scariest session I've ever done in my life because I'm playing with the Buddy Rich Big Band. These guys are
Yeah.
the loudest, most impeccable time. If you suck, they're gonna know it.
Right.
And
Quickly.
so yeah, so that was a ballsy move. God, I use that as my closer, but an opener,
Yeah.
whoo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so but as a kid, I was playing jazz because I was trying to play jazz, and people asked me to play jazz. I didn't take any jazz lessons, but I was playing along with Coltrane and Miles Davis. And I literally, and in college, I was playing in big bands, and I was playing in quartets, trios, quintets. So I not the greatest jazz drummer at all, but I learned a lot from it. And the biggest thing I learned from it is two big things. One, I learned how to swing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Swing, which affects how you play rock and roll.
Right.
So, like
Right.
Right on.
That's why Bonham and Mitch Mitchell and Ginger Baker and Ian Pace and even Keith Moon, they're playing rock, but there's a little bit of swing in their playing that the
Exactly.
next generation doesn't have
Right.
because they grew up listening to skiffle or jazz and stuff like that in England, and
Yeah.
so even though I might be playing, let's say, Kashmir, God, do do do, God, do do. I'm thinking, God, do do, God. I'm swinging inside, so
Yeah.
where everything lands is a little bit different. It's got a certain magical thing that you can't put your finger on. So, playing all these different styles of music, even classical, I kept thinking, what is classical going to do for my rock and roll? Well, it. By the way, let's back up. The two things that teach you to swing,
Hmm.
um, and jazz taught me to swing and also taught me to listen.
Right.
Actually,
Mm.
all these things. I mean, classical music, you've got to listen.
You have
You're
to.
playing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, how do I'm counting measures, but you got to know that the oboes do that, French horns do that, then the cellos do that, then you come in.
Right.
It's about listening, how you fit in. So all this,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
yes,
Yeah.
Wow.
as much as you can get from the different styles of music, it will help the main style that you do.
Right.
So I just did a loop CD, not a loop. It's not a CD. What an idiot! It's a new technology. Can't tell you who the company is. It's from Germany. It was basically I would play a song. Where I do just the drums first, for a certain style of music. It's very complicated. It wasn't just a normal type of song. They had very specific rules about what to do. Take me 2 hours. I do 49 takes sometimes on one song because I had seven different drum beats. So I'd have to do each one of those songs 7 times with the different drum beats. This is for songwriters. Then I do seven different cymbal patterns like accented eighth note,
Right.
even eighth note, open hi hat with accents, quarter note open, crash cymbal ride, quarter note, maybe eighth. Then the bell of the ride, then the eighth note. I'd have to take all those cymbal patterns, each one, and play it with the song. And then so that's seven. Seven times one is seven, but there's six more beats. So then it's seven times two, seven times three, seven times four. I was going cuckoo. I was doing four of those a day. And
Oh my
I'm like
God.
such a pit. I mean, but there was all these different styles of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had one song that was kind of like that Grand Funk Railroad song. Dun-dun-dun,
Yeah.
dun-dun-dun-dun,
Right.
I can't remember the your foot's going boom bop boom 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 bop boom 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 bop boom 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 bop boom 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 bop boom. So I thought, okay, that's good. And then the next variation would be boo boo bop boo boo bop. Next variation boo bop boo bop boo bop boom, and on and on. But eventually, it made four on the floor do ba do duck something in songwriter. But then I went, would you guys like Texas Shuffle? Because that got got
Right.
got. So I created actually two different songs out of that one song, because then I did all this Texas Shuffle stuff. And my point is, I could never have done that if I hadn't explored this other
All
style of music.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And to talk about endurance, because I'm like, I'm tired even
Just
hearing that.
listening to that,
So
right?
that must, how long is those sessions? We're talking full
Eight
days,
hours, eight
obviously.
hours a day for 6 days. Yeah, that was one of the. I'd say that was the most grueling session I've ever done, because
Wow.
it was just me,
Right.
and so I'd stay in the drums for 2 hours, and so when you're doing, like, let's say I do all the grooves, which is, that's not the complicated part. The complicated part is now you're doing the cymbal pattern, and after four measures you do a simple fill in. Do got do got do got
Yeah.
on the eighth measure, four measures later, do got do got do got do ba ba da ba da. Next ones might be ba ba da ba da da. They get bigger and bigger and longer
Oh,
and
okay.
longer. So
Okay.
when you're overdubbing, let's say the hi hat, you have to learn when you do the fill to stop playing the hi hat. Well, I don't. I did 77 beats with different fills, so I start playing. I get to that fourth measure, and I go, stop. The engineer, thank God, was this guy that always would go two measures before I'd punch me in. And I'm like, I'm really impatient. I want to go, punch me in, let's go. He starts it. Good, got it. Now do it again. Okay, good. Then the eighth measure. Oh, I got that one. 12th measure. Now do it again. As a matter of fact, start back at the beginning of measure nine. Okay. I mean, it was that way nonstop for 2 hours.
Wow.
And when I was done, man, I went, either you're a wimp and you're getting older, or I mean, I was exhausted. I'd have to take 15 minutes to chill. Then I'd close my eyes and rest. Then I'd wake up, come out of that, and then I'd look at the next song and get prepped for that, and then do the same thing again. Then it was lunch break. Then do it again. Then do
Wow.
it again. And man, it was. And then I'd stay there when everyone left and prep for the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier about the the playing for hours and hours you played, when you were younger. And that endurance, I'm sure, is what actually is propelling you even till this day. And it's that same feeling that you got when you first saw the Beatles that
Yeah.
you still have. That fire is still lit, you know. Can you talk a little bit about, like, there are artists out there that, they usually run into a lot of depression, they run into, they're hard to get motivated,
Yeah.
the world, the way things are sometimes. Do you have any advice for young musicians and even old musicians like George and I that, are still kind of, creating and want to just have a life filled with music?
Well, let's back up and go to the human condition first. First of all, we're all wired different. I was wired hot. Uh, Matter of fact, my ancestors came from the Ukraine and Odessa, tough people.
Mm,
So I'm fortunate in that I've got that drive and that perseverance that's built in. But
DNA.
yeah, if you
Mhm.
don't have that, then you need to recognize that some people have that, and if you don't, I always tell people, just do the most and best that you can do. And
Right.
you've got to ask yourself, is there more I can do? I mean, come on. It's not all about being comfortable. The thing about practicing all those hours and not loving every moment of it is that I got excited about the results.
Right.
That became the thing. I saw that, okay, and we do have setbacks. Everybody gets in a slump. Everybody gets like they're not motivated. And see, some of this is chemistry.
Right.
It's like I can get exhilarated very quickly,
Yeah.
you know, and the serotonin and the dopamine's flying. I'm just, and then that then facilitates me to keep going even more. If you if you're not like that, you just have to be aware of it so that you don't give up on yourself because you may be just built and wired a certain way. And what you just, if you understand that, you go, oh, it's not my fault. It's just the way I am.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you start putting blame in the wrong place, you could put yourself down, which could perpetually bring you down further.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if I told somebody, your dad just died. Ugh. If I said I love you, even when I say your dad just died, I got, that's, oh. If I say I love you, even when I said it, I go, God, that feels so good. And I sat with a 7 times bestseller author once, and I remember him saying, "Oh man," he asked me something very personal, and I told him, and he went, "Oh man, I've made some big mistakes and had some failures." And I slugged him in the arm, went, "No, you haven't, dude. Those are just experiences that got you right here to this table
That's
while we're
right.
drinking wine." And the takeaway for me was, I can't believe I said that. I learned from me. I was like, I walked away, and ever since that day, I've said that to myself. I've said, you start going, I suck. No, you don't. No,
Yeah.
no, no. No, we're learning to be better, Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
See how the outlook is different? So
Yes.
Yeah.
if you don't want to ever put yourself down, ever.
Right.
You
And we could
don't
also
suck. You
we
don't
could
suck.
right. And we also could surprise ourselves with our, like you just said, you were like, oh, I'm learning from myself. We have that in us to actually be able to educate ourselves on those experiences if we don't take them on and kind of just put them on our shoulders and say, this is who I am now. Like music, George and I sometimes we would get into slumps where it was
Yeah.
just like we were playing something. And I was just like, well, I've done this already. I kind of and what we would do, we go to a concert. We would
Yeah.
go somewhere, go listen to music. Let's just listen to Led Zeppelin 4 all the way
Well,
through.
Right.
And then that kind of just does something, and those dopamines,
absolutely.
and then you start feeling, and you start creating more. You start coming up with your own creations based on that.
Those are great examples of doing something.
Yeah.
There's a point where you step out of where you are because you're not getting anywhere, and you do other things. The big thing you said was you went and did something. You
Right.
don't just
Yep.
give up and start,
Right.
Right.
watching Pinocchio on Walt Disney Channel. You actually doing something. Oh, maybe I'll read. Maybe whatever it is that makes you feel good.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's cool, man.
100%. 100%, man. Thank you.
Wow.
So I can't believe it's been an hour. We've been with Kenny Aronoff for an
And it goes
hour,
by
getting
fast.
Yes.
getting an amazing lesson here on life and music and challenges and taking risks and doing it all. Kenny, we appreciate you so much. Do you have anything you want to say? What are you currently working on? Is there anything that you can divulge?
Well,
I know you got a
I
lot of
have a
stuff always happening.
I have a lot of stuff. I have a new website that's launched, and it's important to stay in order to stay relevant. You have to update lots of things these days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Websites, social media. In my case, I have an agent that books me on these corporate speaking events where I motivate on, creativity, innovation, realizing your purpose, connecting, communicating, collaborating, adapting or dying, and all this stuff. So when he's on you know, when he goes, Kenny would be perfect for your event. They go, Kenny, yeah, he's played on 300 million records, and you hear him every day. And they said, go to his website. So seriously, dude, Esquire did an art. No, Esquire did an article on me once. It was like this: the most famous drummer you've never heard of. And my mom went, "That's not nice." I went, "It's perfect.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
exactly the truth." You think
Yeah.
when you hear a Belinda Carlisle hit or Blaze of Glory, they go, and that was Kenny Aronoff on drums. No, they don't know. So,
I was
so
I was telling George earlier before we came on. I was like, "Do you think we can find a human being that has not heard a Kenny Aronoff
Yeah,
snare? There
probably not.
isn't. I
Probably
don't
No.
think
not.
so.
Probably not.
It'll be really hard to find someone.
So, anyway, so that's why I've updated my website because my agent actually sends people there.
Yeah.
I have a studio right here, Uncommon Studios. I do tons of recording here. I just recorded Corey Hart's biggest singles. I wear my sunglasses at night and
Oh.
Never Surrender. I re-recorded them with a little bit more of a live feel because
Mhm.
we're gonna video us doing it on for Netflix, something on Netflix on the 28th. They're
Nice.
filming. I'm so busy. I don't even ask why and where. So I'm doing that. I'm doing that's coming up. Let's see. I have an audio version of my book that came out last year. Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll. The book. It's right under here. It's under here, but it's called Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll. It's a badass read. It's basically a lot about what we're talking about, but more.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I'm going out with Joe Satriani. I recorded his last record here. We
Wow.
had recorded one before the pandemic, and then we couldn't tour, so we made another one. I did it here. I'm going to go out with John Fogerty in about a month. We could on and off until September. Then I go to off with Satriani. I'm doing some Kings of Chaos gigs, which is a super group. I'm doing a TV show coming up where I play with oh God, Sammy Hagar, the Go Go's, I think, Robbie Krieger from the Doors. I mean, just on
I
and
don't
on
even know
and
how
on.
you remember all that.
I'm no,
Man.
yeah. I have meetings all day. I have a wine coming out, a very expensive,
Oh,
classy bottle of
nice.
wine.
Oh,
It's got
nice.
it's like a $60 bottle, but it's gorgeous. It's got a coin with it's a picture of my face, but the face is a snare drum with glasses,
Oh
and
Cool.
man.
and then the coin comes off, and there's a keychain that you can attach to it. So you got
Oh,
to
you can.
and there's a little booklet that's got the picture that's on my autobiography, the classic picture where I'm holding the sticks and I'm like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Right.
and the description of the wine is they're so cool, man. They went, tell us a little bit about your philosophy. I said, well, I'm about innovation and creativity and about connecting with people and I mean, and about realizing your purpose. They put that in the booklet, and the wine is unbelievable. It's a Syrah Cabernet, and
Oh
it's a
wow.
team of people. So that's coming out, and um, I got a, a possible podcast that someone's going to produce. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, it
Wow.
just, it's just. I have meetings all day long. Kenny and Friends, which is a group where me with superstar artists. That's a possibility in the future.
Yeah.
Uh, I've done this already on a smaller scale in LA. It's just constantly things, uh, you know,
It's amazing.
coming my way.
That's so awesome. And they can get all that on your website, which is on the screen there. And it's
Yeah,
also in the descriptions below, everybody, if you want to get that. I'm looking forward to that wine though, because I want
Yeah,
to.
I wanna
dude.
check that out.
Now
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I
the
want
awesome.
to.
only it's not on my website yet because we don't want to promote it until it's available. They're
Okay.
only making 600 bottles, but
Oh,
Wow.
but this and there's a charity involved. It's for mental illness, which is good. But the cool thing is they've agreed to do maybe 3 a year.
Oh,
oh, okay.
And because
nice.
the winery is in Napa and it's a family-owned business, they're always experimenting, and
Sure.
everything they sent me was great.
Wow.
So I went, well, why do we have to just do one? It's called Uncommon Wines.
Okay.
This
Okay.
studio is called Uncommon Studios LA. Uncommon's written on my arm right
There
there.
you go.
So
That's
because I am.
that's
That's
right.
right. One of a kind, actually. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
listen, you guys, so cool, man. And that's so cool. You saw me back in the day. I mean,
Yeah, man. It was awesome, man.
dude,
Thank you
that's
so
just
much
so
for the
cool.
inspiration.
I love reconnecting like that. That's such a cool thing.
Absolutely.
It's
All right, you
awesome.
guys,
Kenny,
I'm going
thank
to
you
go to
so
work
much.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just getting
wow.
started.
Thank you
Awesome.
so
Thank
much
you
for
so
being
much.
here,
I
man.
appreciate your time. We'll
Yeah.
see you again soon. Take care,
All right, you
Kenny.
guys, take
Thank you,
care.
man.
Take
Yep.
care, man.
Bye. Yep.
That was
I don't know how he does it.
unbelievable. Um, yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say? Kenny
What are you gonna
Aronoff,
say? I mean,
I
it's
mean,
just
just
he's just a nonstop freight train just moving down the tracks.
yeah. What surprised me the most is like how connected and spiritual and full of wisdom
Yeah.
and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, I
Yeah.
guess to be at that level and to play at that with those, just at that level consistently for so long, you have to have a philosophy of life that's pretty solid.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And
And you
and
have
it's
to be
growing constantly, and you're
right.
constantly willing to reevaluate and to evaluate and to look at your life and stuff. Just really amazing,
Yeah,
amazing,
yeah. You
amazing.
have to be, and you're operating on another level.
It
It's
completely
not.
is.
It's just
Completely is.
yeah.
All
But
right, well, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate it. This was an incredible show. Thank you to Kenny Aronoff for making time for us, and we will see you all again next week. We have a Dee Dee Pfeiffer actress is going to be on the show next Tuesday night. We're very excited. She's on Big Sky on ABC, I believe,
yep.
and we're excited to have her on the show. So we will see you all next week. And as always, peace.